Chris reflects on his experiences of alcohol.
Hello, I'm going to talk today about alcohol and its use by bipolar people. Now, this is a subject in which I have done extensive personal research, I have to say, and therefore I feel that I am well qualified to talk to you about it. Alcohol is very, very difficult to get away from, and because of that, it's become the drug of choice and the drug of culture in our world. Now, if you drink alcohol, it messes up your head. I can't explain the chemistry. For bipolar people, alcohol presents a particular problem. I think particularly for bipolar men. Bipolar people, when they're manic or hypermanic, tend to be extremely gregarious people, and they can be very funny, they can be very creative in their conversation. A lot of bipolar people have quite high levels of intelligence, so they can be eloquent and so on and so forth. But the downside is that the inhibitions that are lost in alcohol combine with that state of hypomania, and that situation can very, very easily lead to lack of control, because you've got alcohol on top of mania, and you can get situations of great aggression, which might transmit themselves verbally or indeed physically. You get a loss of inhibition, which means that typically a bipolar person might get into trouble flirting with somebody or making inappropriate sexual suggestions, because that is one of the symptoms of bipolar disorder. And again, you don't need the lack of inhibition that alcohol brings on top of that. And certainly looking back in my life before I was medicated, I had some pretty inappropriate sexual relationships. The other thing is, of course, that you can get yourself into trouble. A lot of men go to pubs, a lot of women go to pubs. Our social life depends on that very, very much for some people. And of course, the trouble with pubs is that they're public places. They attract all sorts of people, some quite unsympathetic people. They attract nice people as well, of course. And it's very easy to make a fool of oneself. Indeed, because of lack of inhibition, that may involve crying and great feelings of sadness. Now, people don't want to come out and see somebody crying into his beer or be shouted at about politics, which are my tendencies. So I adore pubs, but I kind of am feeling now that, I've got to very much moderate that behaviour. I adore alcohol, and it's fun. It's fun to use a social lubricant. So, I think the bipolar person is very much threatened by alcohol. The other thing, of course, is that alcohol gives you hangovers. When you're hungover, you feel really awful and also fed up. Now, for the bipolar person, of course, feeling awful and fed up leads to terrible depression, or can do. And because very often one might have gone over the top when one was drinking and so forth, there are very often terrible, terrible feelings of guilt, and that, again, makes one feel terribly depressed. The other thing, and this is unfortunately very common, is that because of all of that, because of the gregarious nature and so on, very frequently, before treatment, bipolar people will have had problems with drinking. And I think this is an issue for doctors, because they have to ask, why is this person becoming an alcoholic? Why is this person an alcoholic? And very frequently, symptoms of alcohol can underlie really quite serious mental conditions like bipolar disorder. So there we go. I think that's about it. And speak soon, I hope.
Well, that was Chris Daines with the latest